Well, good morning. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. Hope you had a great holiday weekend. Kind of a mixed bag for the holiday weekend, right? Like, because the Orioles took care of business, but they're playing bad teams, so you're like, even not winning all of them is somehow disappointing. Fun weekend of college football. I spent a lot of time watching tennis, of course. Fantasy draft weekend, but then I also got violently ill, which was no fun. That was unpleasant. There was a point at which I wasn't sure that I was going to be here today. I went and did the radio show yesterday and seriously regretted it. For the first time ever, I sat down during the radio show. I'd never done that before since we started working over at 105.7. I had never sat down once. The idea over on the radio show is I want to try to keep the energy up.
Right.
And so that's why I stand up the entire time.
Here it's all about,
Well, here it's more of a conversational, over there, that's the difference between what we do here and what we do over there. Over there, you only get 12-minute segments, little bursts throughout the course of the morning or the day. So I gotta ramp it up. Over here, it's more of a stream of conscience conversation type of thing that we're doing. So I sat down, and, I couldn't stand up. It was bad. Bad. I think I'm good now. I hope I'm good now. It was an unpleasant day. Only thing that was good about it is that, I think my kids thought I was taking them to the state fair yesterday, and I had no interest in doing that. That was the only good news about the entire day, is I was like, yeah, I don't have any interest in doing that. So it worked out that I didn't have to. But other than that, it was rough. But we're here, and we're into game week, as it is football season. Also, I need you to figure out what's going on with our picks sheet, because it looks awful.
Yeah, I know. I texted John. We'll figure it out.
What do you mean we'll figure it out? How do we? Oh, no, you know what? Somebody already fixed it.
Okay.
I guess John probably already fixed it. That's good news. So
Good
we'll
job,
go
John.
over that at some point today. Also coming up on the program today, Mike Florio will join us from Pro Football Talk and NBC. Of course, obviously, Ravens-Chiefs is on NBC on Thursday night. And stuff and things. That's what we got today. A nice 4-day weekend for everybody. Nice to pack it up. We'll see when we see a type of weekend. That's the way that it goes. But we begin things today with... Well, at least
you said it was a 5-day weekend?
At least we were prepared to do the show. Might not have been prepared with anything else, but at least we were prepared to do the show.
You were saying?
Nope.
Oh.
Nope. You don't get a... This is on you. You don't get a redo.
Experience the thrill of the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, coming October 17th to 20th. See the world's best equestrians compete in the sport of eventing, the ultimate test of horse and rider. Enjoy a weekend festival featuring local food, shopping, and fun for all. Come for the event and stay for the experience in Cecil County, home to the Chesapeake Bay waterfront, vibrant small towns, and family entertainment. Tickets on sale now at maryland5star.us.
All right, so a few things. We weren't here, obviously, yesterday because of Labor Day, so we didn't get to put up anything from the weekend, so we'll do that, and then we'll get into yesterday's game. Bunch of men of the match. A bunch of them. On Friday night, the Orioles win the opener against the Rockies. A lot of people wanted it to be Albert Suarez because he gave them a very quality start. There is no doubt that's true. But it's the Orioles offense that had been more of the issue of late, and it was Emmanuel Rivera, of all people, who came through to be the hero in that scenario. And so Emmanuel Rivera is the first man of the match that we need to put up on the board, a first-timer. I don't know what to make of it. He's going to have to play, obviously, with Ramon Arias getting hurt. There's no way around that. I know that Kobe Mayo is going to play some. It looks like it's going to be the two of them figuring it out. Emmanuel Rivera has had moments. Had the 2-run homer, obviously, another RBI single on Friday night. So he goes up on the board for the first time. The difficulty of Emmanuel Rivera being on the board, the place that I normally go to get headshots of Orioles players doesn't even have a headshot. He's still wearing Marlins gear in that particular picture. So
That picture looks good, though.
it looks fine, but it doesn't have that white background if he happens to be a man of the match again. And, I'm rooting for that. then it's going to be very difficult for
Gotcha.
us. So we'll have to
Put the
figure
star
out.
on his hat. Start doing it like
I don't know what we do about
like
it.
the Buckeyes. They get the stickers and.
All right, next Saturday. Saturday lose. That's what it is. Sunday. This man comes back. Not even a rehab appearance. Rehab appearance. Who needs a rehab appearance when you're the best pitcher in baseball? The best deadline acquisition of anyone in the league. Zach Eflin with another brilliant 7 innings.
Wow.
Didn't allow a hit until, the 6th? Was it the 6th
I
or the 7th
believe-
when he allowed the first? It was the 6th he allowed one.
So he
He
took-
had one hit in the 6th, and then they allowed
So he was perfect through 5? Is that
yeah, I
what?
believe that's correct.
Jeez.
Yeah, ended up allowing 1 run over 7 innings. Zach Eflin, obviously a rock star. He gets up there. And also for the first time, and this picture isn't nearly big enough, but it'll actually fit perfectly because we're running out of room on the board, so we'll need to put it right there. Austin Slater, God bless him, man. Again, yesterday it could have been anyone, clearly. This is what happens when you face the Chicago White Sox. Life is good. Everybody gets to eat. You don't apologize for it. The number of people who are trying to apologize for it, like, oh, yeah, but the White Sox stink. I know that. But all the teams that have beaten them all season long get to count that as a win, too. And as we talked about yesterday on the radio show, you just kind of hope that facing the White Sox allows you to feel good about yourself, get the vibes going again, and maybe that's something that can carry over even after the White Sox leave town. And I don't know that. First of all, I don't know that the Orioles are going to continue beating up the White Sox over the course of the next 2 nights. All I really care about is that they win baseball games, frankly. That's the part that's important. But Austin Slater in the lineup against a right-handed hitter or pitcher. And to be fair, not a very good one. Chris Flexen and the White Sox making some history yesterday. What is the streak? Like 23 consecutive starts of his that they've lost or something like that? It's some absurd number. I apologize. I know they brought it up on the broadcast, and I just wasn't paying the attention that I should have been. That's my fault.
I mean, it was, what, a 13-3 game? Or should you have been paying attention?
No, I was also violently ill.
See that? Yeah, that as well. I think
It was a day.
you can get
It was a day
a pass,
in
I
my
think. The team lost its 20th consecutive game in which Chris Flexen started.
20th consecutive game.
A new record.
That Chris Flexen started that they lost yesterday. Still, Austin Slater is here to be in the lineup against lefties. And yesterday he was in the lineup against righty, and he produced. He got the job done. Dig it. Dig it. That's all I can say. Dig it. I'm all for more Austin Slater, who we kind of laughed at when the Orioles acquired him. He wasn't producing at all, not even against left-handed pitchers this season, and yet he has been outstanding. So Austin Slater, 3 for 4 yesterday with 3 RBI and a walk. Austin Slater is the man of the match. So there you go. All 3 of them, Manuel Rivera, Zach Eflin, for the 4th time this season, and Austin Slater all join the man of the match parade. I don't have much more to say, really, at this point. The Orioles will hope they're back within a half game. Unfortunately, the Rangers didn't offer any help last night, so they're still a half game back of the Yankees in the AL East. Corbin Burns was better after the first inning, but against the White Sox, so it doesn't make you feel good. 7 base runners over 5 innings. Our guy Zach Moore, Pigtown Sports, has done a lot of really interesting work on Corbin Burns, and particularly his reliance on the cutter in 3-2 counts and how teams are kind of clearly just sitting on it at this point. And instead of getting strikeouts, he's getting battered. It's worth. I would go follow him at Pigtown Sports and check out his content because he has really dove in on it. It's overwhelming. I would like to think that if he has been able to do that work, that the Orioles similarly have been able to do that work, and they can continue to try to go about solving the problem. You really wanted Corbin Burns to come out yesterday and shove. Much like the offense, it was an opportunity for them to get right. You would have really liked for Corbin Burns to have come out and shoved yesterday, and you to feel good about that too. That wasn't the case. He didn't shove, but he battled. I mean, at least it wasn't like the end of the world. At least it wasn't the scenario where he got rocked by the Chicago White Sox. And then you really have to worry about where things are. But at the moment, Corbin Burns, it's interesting thinking about where he slots in a postseason rotation. You start doing your math. At the moment, the Orioles would have to play in the wild card series. Right now, Zach Eflin's your number one starter. There's not even a debate about it. You are lining things up for Zach Eflin to be your game one starter, unless you're doing some sort of mathematical equation where you want Zach Eflin for game 3 of that series, because if it all comes down to one game, but you can't be planning on a game 3, because what if you lose the series in 2? Zach Eflin's your game 1 starter. The hilarious part of it is, at the moment, Albert Suarez is your number 2 starter. And that, in a way, like, it would be interesting to see, right, in a scenario where, let's just say you get in, Zach Eflin's your game 1 starter, and you win. Albert Suarez, if that was your plan to be your number 2 starter, is definitely your number 2 starter. It would be interesting to see if, like, you get in, you're in a wild card series, Zach Eflin's your game 1 starter, and you lose. Do you suddenly pivot and say, well, Corbin Burns is the guy with the experience. We're gonna live and die with him in game 2? I don't know. It's a conversation we're still weeks away from. And Grayson Rodriguez is still hopefully going to be back and can get himself involved in this conversation. It's only in the back of your head today. It's not front of mind what the postseason rotation ends up looking like, because there's still another month, more or less, before you have to make those decisions, and you still don't know if Grayson Rodriguez is definitively going to be back and ready to go into the rotation. And I think if you're going to trust him, particularly in a 3-game wild card series, you will have wanted to see him make a couple of starts and look good before then. And it's also very possible by the time we get there, we go right back to thinking that Corbin Burns is Corbin Burns. Like, it's possible that we'll look back on this as nothing more than a blip on the radar. Although particularly his inability to hold runners on, and that was still very evident yesterday. Particularly that is why, yeah, it's going to be hard to feel good about Corbin Burns in a playoff situation, particularly a short series. A short where one game really could be your undoing within that series. That will make it interesting where that impacts their usage of Corbin Burns. And at the moment, I think it's a game 3 starter. Someone that you're not counting on to make 2 starts in a short series. Just hilarious that that's the conversation that we're having about Corbin Burns. But in the moment, I think that's the reality. And we'll see. Perhaps that changes. Perhaps over the course of the next couple of weeks, we go back to saying, what are we talking about? This is Corbin Burns, man. But if Zach Eflin keeps pitching like this, Zach Eflin's your number 1 starter. He is. It's unbelievable, man. He walked a guy on Sunday, and all you could think about is, well, what the hell? 1 walk? Get him off the team. Get him off the team. It's just an insane standard that we're used to with Zach Eflin.
So you're saying if the playoffs started today? If
the playoffs started today, Zach Eflin would be the game 1 starter.
Okay.
Suarez, to me, would start game 2, and Burns would start game 3.
They
don't have a 4th starter at the moment. That's part of the problem. Like if they were if they were to win the division, and they were to be not in a wild card series, but just in a divisional series, until Grayson's back, there's no one that I would be okay with throwing out there to start a 4th game. Like, that's just who? Cade Povich?
Well,
that's who's going tonight,
no.
By the way. Cade Povich takes the mound. No. I mean, I guess Dean Kramer would default to being the 4th starter in that scenario as long as he's okay. And since he hasn't gone on the injured list yet, I assume that means he's okay. So I guess in that scenario, Dean Kramer would default to being your 4th guy. But let's be very honest about this. Every time we want to believe in Dean Kramer, like we'll lose in the shuffle that when Dean Kramer got hit by the line drive on Saturday night, he wasn't pitching well.
No. He wasn't.
Like, the story isn't just that he got hurt. That's the last thing we saw from Dean Kramer. What we saw before that was part of the Dean Kramer experience, which is for a few starts, you absolutely want to buy into and believe that Dean Kramer is a guy. And then you just know that bad Dean is lurking right around the corner. So there's like no world where Corbin Burnes isn't in the rotation or something like that. I can't get there because you don't have enough guys. But if this were to continue and you get Grayson Rodriguez back, is it impossible that in a 5-game wild card series that you end up going Grayson over Corbin Burnes? It's not impossible. I just don't find it likely. But I mean, if this continues, if this was the high water mark because he was facing the White Sox, and next time out he looks more like the guy that we had seen for the starts before that, you are riding hot hands when you get in the playoffs. You are not defaulting to, well, he's the guy that makes X amount of dollars and that we traded this for. Like, the hell with that. You got to win.
But he is still a former Cy Young.
That's fine. God bless him. This is like telling me that Craig Kimbrell is a borderline Hall of Famer.
It's different.
Who gives a flying F?
It's different because Corbin Burnes he's not 30. How old is Kimbrell now? He's not pushing
matter.
40.
Is he effective? That's the one thing that matters. Is he effective? And my gut tells me that Corbin Burnes is going to be better in September than he was in August. But if he's not, we're not going to do the thing where we sit back and pretend like, again, that's why you could start Game 4. It's why you could be in the rotation. But we don't sit back and pretend like, well, now it's the playoffs, so he's just going to go back to being Corbin Burnes. The hell with that. The guys that are performing are the guys that go. That's the way this works, man. Like the playoffs? Playoffs? Talking about playoffs? What are we doing here?
Yeah, well done.
All right. Today's show brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. This is it. Literally, last call. End of the road. You have, for whatever reason, still waited out. You just haven't been... You haven't been able to get everybody together. Tell them right now, this is it. Tomorrow night, we're getting together at Sports and Social Live Casino and Hotel. Cancel all your plans. Come meet me there. That's where we're doing our fantasy draft. Tomorrow night. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/social in order to do it. Go right now. You're going to get your choice of all-you-can-eat entrees. Your drinks will be taken care of. Draft kit, trophy for the winner, $75 gift card for the commissioner. This is the final call. And you've been putting it off, and you're like, I guess we're just going to do it on the app because we got to get it done before the games start on Thursday. Don't. PressBoxOnline.com/social. Final call for you to host your fantasy draft at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. All right, it is game week. Ravens, Chiefs, Thursday night. I can't believe it. We're just 2 days away from the start of football season. I happen to notice that our next guest is a big believer that this is finally going to be the year for the Baltimore Ravens, as he has them beating the Green Bay Packers to win the Super Bowl. This man, former front office executive, now you see him on NFL Network. It's a pleasure to welcome back to the program Mr. Marc Ross, who's with us here on GCR. Mark, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us, as always.
Of course, my pleasure.
Mark, why is this finally the year for the Baltimore Ravens to break through in your mind?
Well, as y'all know, you've seen the team. They've been one of the best teams in the league the last few years. I thought they were the best team in the league last year, right up until the AFC Championship game when they decided not to run the ball at all. So, and then it's just, teams go through this. You see this all the time where you go through heartbreak, you go through steps, you go through stages of ascending, and it just seems as if, okay, here's the team. Lamar's going to be Lamar. Now you bring in Derrick Henry, a guy who single-handedly carried a franchise on his back for years, and I just think that combination is going to be really strong, and it's just their time. And going through that heartache and that pain, and say, all right, we're right there in the mix again. And every team has strengths and weaknesses. When I just look at Baltimore's strengths compared to their weaknesses compared to some other teams, I just feel like it's their time. And of course, KC's hard to pick against, but that three-peat is. I'm gonna go with history as well. Learn from history just go with the odds on that. So just love Baltimore and what they've got going on.
As you point out, of course, no team has ever won 3 consecutive Super Bowls. Mark, again, that was going to be my biggest retort is, okay, but Patrick Mahomes is still breathing, right? Like, to my knowledge, he's still breathing. Yep. What does it you bring up Derrick Henry, and I keep trying to convince myself that can be the difference, although we all know that the running backs weren't necessarily the problem. The problem was the game plan in the AFC Championship game. How can Derrick Henry prove to be the difference for a team to go from consistently good to being able to, keep Patrick Mahomes off the field and prove themselves to be the dominant team in the AFC?
Yeah, you're right. It was as I mentioned, it was the game plan. It wasn't the backs, it was the game plan. But here it is, you have where Baltimore knows how to run the ball. That's what they do. But you put the best running back in his generation on the team. I love Gus Edwards. I love Hill. I love all those guys. But you put a guy who, as I mentioned, just single-handedly carried that Tennessee team when they were beating Baltimore and other teams there in the playoffs. Like, now he doesn't have to do that. Now you got all this other stuff going on with Lamar, and Zay's going to ascend, and Ed and Andrews, and likely you got all this other stuff going on. And now go stop Derrick Henry. I just think it just makes them so much better. And they can go toe-to-toe with KC. Of course, Mahomes is always there, and, he's going to be the difference maker. And until he gets beat, then he's the standard. But despite how bad Baltimore played last year in that game, they were still there. They still had chances, despite, completely getting out of their game plan and not doing what they do, the mistakes, the penalties they kept getting. So to still be right there, that just shows you how good of a team they were. So, and it's just so hard. Kansas City's won 2 in a row, but there's breaks here and there that have to go your way that is just so precarious and precious with any moment can change a game. And it's just so hard to, number one, repeat, which they did, but the 3-peat, everything has to go right for KC, even though they'll be right in the mix again.
Marc Ross is with us. He, of course, won a couple of Super Bowls in the front office with the New York Giants. He is now on NFL Network. Mark, I wonder what you make of some of the concerns. I think particularly in Baltimore, one of the concerns we do have going into the season is along the offensive line, where they're replacing 3 of their 5 starters from a year ago, including Kevin Zeitler, who was just a rock star among rock stars for this team for the last few years. I know that there is a lot of, hey, well, this is the Ravens, and all they ever do is draft and develop offensive linemen. So we have faith in them, and everybody I've talked to sort of has that sort of take like, yeah, you're right, but it's the Ravens. Where are you? It didn't look great in the preseason. I acknowledge, of course, that's the preseason. What do you make of just the difficulty of overturning that much of your offensive line and having to replace them not with guys that have proven in the NFL? I didn't go out and get somebody in free agency, but with guys that have never done this in the NFL and just saying, go after it, go get him, go try to win the Super Bowl.
Right, and that is a concern. Every team has strengths and weaknesses, and as I mentioned already, and there's always concerns, but some teams get a pass for saying, yes, this is how we do things, and the Ravens are one of those teams because they've proven it over and over, whether it be O-line, whether it be linebackers, whatever those positions, well, all except for receiver for the Ravens is, okay, this is the next guy up, and he's going to be good. They're going to be Pro Bowlers. So you have to have faith in that, whereas some of the bottom feeder teams, even though they say that, no, you haven't proven the ability to do that. So, yes, until they're proven differently, you have to have faith that, okay, they saw something in Roger Rosengarten to take him in the second round and plug him in there and say, yep, he's going to roll. And Daniel Falele a couple years ago took him, okay, develop him a couple years, I'll put him in a guard and let him roll. So that's the faith that you have to have in your system and your draft process and your personnel department to know who thrives and survives in your system. And, okay, when it's your time, you're going to go perform at a high level. And, of course, having a Ronnie Stanley, hopefully he's staying healthy, and Linderbaum, 2 dudes that are Pro Bowl caliber players that say, okay, we're going to bring this all together. And then, again, the system and Lamar and making it all better, making everyone better. You have to have faith in that they'll get it done on Thursday and the rest of the season.
What's your expectation for how different the defense looks as they make the adjustment from Mike Macdonald, who had been so wildly successful and so aggressive and almost brilliant with his blitz scheming, to now a very young defensive coordinator with Zach Orr?
Yeah, that's always a concern when you have one of the top coordinators and you can't just replace them and plug them in. We went through that with the Giants. We lost Steve Spagnuolo. We elevated someone like, yeah, it'll be the same, but it's different. You know, those coaches have a special skill set, and there's only a few of them. But I was at the Ravens camp. I covered their camp during training camp this year, and to a man, those dudes love Zach Orr. I mean, it was effusive with those guys. I mean, they lit up. You know, of course, they had the respect for McDonald and everything, but all those dudes really lit up. Talked to Roquan and Matabike and stuff. I mean, it was like, wow, they they just were fired up about having Zach Orr as the coordinator, and I think you'll see a similar standard and a similar level of production and those dudes flying around really getting after it. So I wouldn't expect to see much of a drop-off at all.
The other thing that jumps out to me, Mark, is that, like, the AFC is just hell, right? Like, it is absolute hell, and it's not just because Patrick Mahomes is breathing. It's because Joe Burrow's healthy, and it's because, hey, I can't – there's nothing about the Texans that I can knock. Like, they look every ounce of the real deal to me that you can possibly look. And, you know, who knows? Maybe Aaron Rodgers really can still be Aaron Rodgers at this point. And, like, I do wonder if part of the problem here isn't about the Ravens as much as it's just about the difficulty of what you would have to do in order to get back there to win 3-4 games in the postseason against the caliber of teams that we're talking about.
Yeah, but then you have to flip it and look at those other teams, what they have to go through.
Yep.
So it's not, you know, you're looking at your team and saying we got to beat all these other teams, but those teams have to beat all those teams too. And when you get to that level, and I always talk about teams in terms of who can win the Super Bowl, not who's going to win their division or, you know, be nice in the playoffs. It's okay. Now you're getting to this point with these elite teams, and what elements do you have that are going to make you win the Super Bowl? And what are the finer points? And when you're talking about those teams, okay, there's only going to be a couple plays here and there, a couple players here and there that are going to decide the difference. And when I just stack Baltimore up and say, okay, who can go through this gauntlet? Which teams can really get this done? And they're, you know, one of the 1-2 teams that I think can actually get that done and accomplished, because they've achieved to a certain level already where they know they can get to a certain point. And then, okay, now what is the final difference that's going to push us over the top? And I would just look at the landscape of the AFC, as you mentioned, and you know, Buffalo and Miami's got high hopes, visited them as well. And I think the Chargers will be resurgent with Harbaugh there. So when you just look at the totality of the teams and what's the finer points of it, and I just think the Ravens have those elements that actually can get it done.
Mark, do you worry at all about how any of the last few years maybe have worn on the Ravens? Like, do you have any concern about just, you know, the frustration of having been there and fallen short? And, you know, is this the story of do you worry about any of those things, or do you feel like this organization is capable, because they're such a quality organization, of that not being something that impacts them?
Yeah, I think the Ravens are, and again, maybe being around it, in it, you're a little bit more negative or nitpicky with your team, but on the outside, from looking and knowing the NFL, the Ravens are really sort of the standard. Like, the standard is just, we just go win. There's no letdowns. There's no, well, it's just, okay, last year's over, let's go win it again. Let's go put it, and they've just performed at that level for so long through different coaches, through different GMs, that's just the standard there in Baltimore. And with Harbaugh, love Harbaugh, worked with him back in Philly back in the day. So, you know, he's an upper echelon coach. You got a MVP as your quarterback. You got stars all up and down the roster, and guys like Roquan, who's your leader, that, we're not going to have a letdown, and this is just the way we roll, and we're just going to go perform at a high level. And I don't think their mindset is anything but that with everybody on that roster.
All right, Mark, before I let you go, the team that everybody is giving way too much credit to coming into the season and you are a little bit more skeptical about, and the team that we are not talking about nearly enough, where are you going with those two?
Well, you mentioned the Jets. I'm just I didn't believe in them last year with the whole Aaron Rodgers hype. I didn't think it would end after 4 plays. But I wasn't a believer there, and then now I'm just not buying a 40-year-old coming off an Achilles being resurgent I've never seen a player at that, forget 40, 35 or something, get better and go back to what they were. So I'm not buying the Jets and that whole situation and all the drama that he brings. And then I mentioned the Chargers. I think when, for years they were always so close, and really their head coach just messed games up. They were in it. And really those 5 wins last year are a true indication of the quality of how close they were and just giving up games. And now you have a head coach who all he does is win. We talked about the standard with the Ravens, and whether you love Harbaugh or not, like him or not, the other Harbaugh, that he just wins no matter where he goes, and he knows how to put out tough teams that compete and win at a high level. Now you put him with a top 5, possibly quarterback in Herbert. They really have the elements there to say we can really be a force here.
Mark, where we seeing you? When we seeing you on TV this week?
I'm supposed to be on tonight, but I had to take off. So Thursdays, I'll be on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, for the most part right now. The Insiders and Game Day Live.
This seems like pretty good days to be on. Like you're going to have a couple of things to talk about during the course of that. At Marc Ross, it's of course Mark with a C. At Marc Ross on Twitter is how you follow him. Mark, really, look, man, you're the most popular guy in town today, right?
Okay,
This is the good news.
For some free crab cakes or something,
brother. You tell me when you're back in town. We'll make sure we make that happen. All right? And if they do win the Super Bowl, we'll ship them to you. All right, that's a problem. Right, we will send them to you.
No, I'm right here in Philly. A quick 2-hour drive down there. I'll be there real quick.
You are absolutely going to be invited to the parade, my friend, if it works out that way. Mark, thanks for taking the time for us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Sure thing. My pleasure.
That's Marc Ross, of course, former NFL front office executive, 2-time Super Bowl champion with the Giants, and now on NFL Network. And, yeah, he's got the Ravens over the Packers in the Super Bowl, which would be wonderful. Big fan of that thought. Big fan of that ending up being the case. All right. Speaking of football, Project Game Day returns this Thursday night. PressBoxOnline.com/gameday is where you'll find it immediately following the season opener. Click there. Come over. Hang out with us. Myself. Rita's going to be down in KC. She'll be hopping on with us. Our brother Femi Ion Badejo, Super Bowl champion, will be checking in, and of course, the whole crew. I'm sure KZ will be there, and Josh, and Andrew Steck, maybe. Who knows? He'll tell me he can't, and then he'll, of course, show up. He's good at that. That's coming up Thursday night, the season kickoff, and then, of course, Project Game Day immediately afterwards, PressBoxOnline.com/gameday. Come join us on Thursday night and all season long, immediately following every game. When we come back in, we will continue talking Ravens Chiefs. Mike Florio will join us next. Glenn Clark Radio.
Escape to Ocean City, Maryland, and discover a place that just feels lighter, where every day feels like Saturday and French fries are a food group, where flip-flops are always in fashion and seafood is always in season, where the boardwalk is bustling and the beach is right outside your door, where you can rise with the tide and feel like a kid again. Ocean City, Maryland, somewhere to smile about. Book your trip at OCOcean.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
We've all experienced it before. The fantasy football draft from hell. Your buddy says you can do it at his house, but he never asks his wife. She's screaming at him the whole time and forces you guys to sit outside in the unforgiving heat. Then everyone brings the exact same store-bought 7-layer dip, and somehow you accidentally draft someone named LeVar Jackson because your brain can't function in these circumstances. Don't cop out and just move your draft online this year. Let Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel handle everything for you. Book your draft party, complete with your choice of all-you-can-eat entrees, drinks, and custom draft kits for the whole league, plus a custom trophy for your champion and a $75 gift card for the commish. Visit PressBoxOnline.com/social. That's PressBoxOnline.com/social, and never have a fantasy draft from hell again.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Frederick Keys Baseball is back. With 30 more home games beginning on July 2nd, the Keys are excited to welcome you back to Nimio Field at Harry Grove Stadium. We want to see you there. Countless promotions will be on display every game, with it ranging from Tap House Tuesdays to Firework Fridays and everything in between. For more information or to buy tickets, call 301-815-9939 or visit frederickkeys.com today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
You've got plans for 1 week from tonight. I've made your plans for you. 1 week from tonight, you are going to be at the Hamilton Sports Bar and Grill on Harford Road. You don't even bother asking everybody, hey, what do you guys do? Just stop. 1 week from tonight, that's where you're going to be. The Hamilton Sports Bar and Grill on Harford Road. And you're going to be hanging out with me, which, first of all, how lucky are you? You're going to be hanging out with Rita, so, there's actually a reason why you want to be there. And you're going to be hanging out with Arthur Millette. And Arthur Millette's first special guest of the season for the Arthur Millette Show, which kicks off 1 week from tonight, Tuesday, September 10th, at the Hamilton Sports Bar and Grill. We are really looking forward to it. We've gotten to know Arthur a bit over the last couple of months. You've heard him on this show. You heard him on the radio show. He's really excited about this. This is something that he wants to do moving forward in his life. He wants to get into the media world. And so he's fired up. He was over there. He actually has been posting some of the pictures on his story. He posted a picture just of the script that I wrote for him for a promo that you're going to start hearing during the course of the season. He was very excited to read the script. He was excited about it. He was like, dude, I could do it better. He wanted to do it again. He was very excited about it. So we're really excited about having Arthur Millette out all season long. And obviously, it's a bummer for him that he's starting the season on IR. But as he told us once, he is ahead of schedule. There's every reason to believe that after 4 weeks, he's going to be good. And he's got folks coming out all season long, so we can't wait. We'll be reacting to whatever happens in Kansas City and just getting to know Arthur and his special guest this Tuesday night. It's brought to you by Easy Pass. It's brought to you by Problem Gambling. You can find out more, including the schedule for basically the entire season. I don't know that it's every show that we've got up on the website, but it's damn close to it. PressBoxOnline.com/Millette, MAULET, PressBoxOnline.com/Millette. And again, it all kicks off 1 week from tonight. We will be at the Hamilton Sports Bar and Grill on Harford Road with Arthur Millette for the very first Arthur Millette Show. I am really looking forward to that. It should be a very, very fun season. All right, a couple of things before Mike Florio joins us. Number one, I appreciate the reminder as Marc Ross brought up Matabike, but didn't say what his first name is. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, it's Nnamdi Matabike now. And two things that I'll say about it. First, there is it does not make you cool or hip or edgy or anything like that to be like, oh, dude, his name's Justin. What is this? Guy's trying to change it. It is douchebaggy gets when we think that we get to determine what someone else's name is. I think a lot of people remember that Odafe Owe, the night the Ravens drafted him, didn't have that name. When the Ravens drafted him, they drafted Jason Owe. This is not hard. I mean, it's really not hard. A person gets to choose what their name is. You don't get to choose it. They get to choose it. They get to choose what their name is. They get to choose how it's pronounced. They get to choose all of those things. And because you didn't call them that name the last time, whether it's somebody in your life or a football player or whoever it is, it's irrelevant as to what their name is. They get to choose that. That's the reality. Nnamdi Madubuike's name is Nnamdi Madubuike. The follow-up would be, I simply would ask that we try to show some grace here for people that don't mean harm, but end up defaulting to saying Justin Madubuike. It's going to happen. I would say it's even, far different than Odafe Owe, who we never really got to know as Odafe when he was in Baltimore. We've gotten to know Nnamdi Madubuike by another name for years. So there will be well-intentioned people who will slip up and will just, oh, right, yeah, sorry, I screwed up. And, dunking on them online to try to make yourself feel like a big person is as lame gets. So I don't have a take about it. I think it's neat that he wants to reflect his family, his culture, and that says that's my name. I want to be proud of my name. Awesome. Good for you, Nnamdi. Really likable guy, damn good football player, and we will do everything in our power to try to make sure that we appropriately refer to Nnamdi Madubuike as Nnamdi Madubuike moving forward. And we just ask for grace if, being well-intentioned, every now and then we might slip up. All right. Ravens-Chiefs, Thursday night. Season kicks off. Of course, that game is on NBC. And if it's on NBC, that means that this man will be in our living rooms. And I know today's a big day for him for other reasons as well. He is, of course, the man behind Pro Football Talk. He is NBC's Mike Florio. And he's back with us now here on GCR. Mike, it's Glenn. It's always great to catch up, brother. Thank you for taking the time for us today.
Yeah, just got into the car. I'm on my way to the airport for the trip to Kansas City. It is virtually impossible to get to Kansas City from Pittsburgh. At least I don't have to fly through L.A. to get there. But, yeah, the trip starts and the week starts.
What is that all about? Nobody from Pittsburgh ever goes to Kansas City? That's weird.
No direct flights. Direct flights. Last year I literally flew through Dallas to come home and Charlotte today, and it just makes for a fun week one. Maybe somebody else will win the Super Bowl this year. Maybe Baltimore will win it. I can take a direct flight from Pittsburgh to Baltimore.
How long is the flight? I have never done that as a flight. What is the flight length for Pittsburgh to Baltimore?
I've never done it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's close enough from where we live that it's basically a 3.5 hour drive.
Right.
So by the time you go to the airport and
it's
get
not
there
worth
early,
it.
It's easy to just drive.
It ain't worth it. All right, before we get into the Ravens, get into the game, important day for you, as I know how much this series means to you. But for folks that don't know, you got a new book available today. It's called Son of Mine, and it's sort of a follow-up on Father of Mine, correct?
Yeah, it is. It is also a standalone. It's a combination of a sequel and a second book in a series. The problem is if you read the second book, it spoils the first book from pretty much the first page, which probably isn't ideal. So you read Father of Mine first, then you get Son of Mine, but it's out today. It's only $4.99 at Amazon, which you can find nothing for $4.99. Ebooks are usually at least twice that amount, unless you're finding an old Dickens book for free that's in the public domain. Print edition, $14.99. And it's, I mean, it sounds immodest, but I've got reviews that back this up. It's good. It's entertaining. It's fast-paced. It fits with today's short attention span because the chapters are short. You'll rip through it quickly. And, if people like mob stories, both are good. Son of Mine's better. Father of Mine's good. Son of Mine's great. And the Son of Mine is out today, so they're both available at Amazon. And you can get them both for under $10.
And I know that this is kind of important to you because it sort of touches these stories kind of touch home a little bit.
I grew up in Wheeling, West Virginia, and the mob was very prevalent there, as it was in most small towns back in the 70s. And my dad was a bookie who was tied into the group there, so kept my eyes open and mouth shut and learned a lot about things that I probably shouldn't have known about when I was 10, 11, 12 years old. But a lot of the stories, a lot of the things that make their way into the books are at least inspired by things that either I knew about at the time, which wasn't much, or found out about later, which was plenty.
We will link it up on our Twitter account at Glenn Clark Radio for you to find it. Again, Son of Mine is available today. And I know how much these mean to you, Mike, so I'm really happy for you. And look, man, all the success you've had, it's really cool that you've been able to explore this other part of what you wanted to do beyond just your day job, which I guess is a reminder that, like, you know, the whole football thing was beyond just your day job once upon a time. So I guess the next question is, what could possibly be next for you? Like, do you go to you go to medical school now? Like, just keep going and keep doing, you know, incredible random things moving forward?
Well, the writing of books is an extension of what I do every day. The thing is, though, that everything I write today, by tomorrow, it doesn't mean anything. And everything I write tomorrow, by the next day, it doesn't mean anything. So I wanted to write something that had a little more relevance, had a little more staying power. And during the pandemic, when, you know, nobody was going anywhere and we were all stuck at home, that's when I started writing longer form, and I enjoy it. And I'm just going to keep going. My original goal was 20 books. I'm going to push for 30. And the thinking is, if you do that many, one of them is accidentally going to not suck. So that's the goal.
That. All right, Mike, let's get into Thursday night. Let's get into the Ravens. How will it be different, or how could it be different this year? Like, I just default to, at this point, if Patrick Mahomes is breathing, we're living in the era of Patrick Mahomes, and it's going to make it very difficult for anyone else to come out on top at the end of the season. How might it be different, either for the Ravens or for anyone else this year?
Well, the Chiefs have not been dominant. They've been a dynasty, but it hasn't been boring. They do a lot of late escapes, especially in the Super Bowl. Last year, they were embarrassed at home by the Raiders on Christmas Day, and it at least crossed my mind that they might screw around and miss the playoffs. They ended up the 3 seed, which was the lowest they've been under Mahomes. They had to go on the road for the first time ever in the postseason, and they had to do it the hard way. And they know how to do it the hard way, but they dig those holes for themselves. They lost at home last year, week 1, so they lost at home last year to start the season would suggest their guard's going to be up even higher. But this is the time to get them when they're not thinking about playoff mode, when you can maybe pick them off here or there, knowing that there's a rematch looming that's going to be a hell of a lot more difficult. But, yeah, this is the opportunity for the Ravens, who have 3 other teams in their division they need to worry about and compete with. They need every win they can get. So if they want to rise up to the top of the AFC North again, they're going to have to win as many out of the division as they can, because it's going to be 6 meat grinders when they start playing the teams from the AFC North.
It's so funny you bring up that idea of a rematch. Your old friend and my buddy Greg Rosenthal and I were talking last week, and he was like, I know it sounds crazy, but is there some world where you're better off losing this game because you ain't beaten the Chiefs twice? Like, it's just not happening. And I know they obviously can't think that way, but there's some bizarro part of my brain that's like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's the best case scenario, because, my God, imagine what it would do to the Chiefs and how it would wake them up and have them even more hyper-focused for a playoff rematch if you were to go into Kansas City on Thursday night and win.
Well, it would be the equivalent of Justin Tucker messing around before the game started. We were talking about that on PFT Live this morning, how his antics might have poked the bear just the wrong way to wake up the Chiefs, who were less than a month removed from looking ordinary against the Raiders. And you know, a lot of people did not expect them to beat the Ravens. So you're right. Losing now would make it more likely that they would win later. But they're chasing history, and they could be the best positioned team to win 3 in a row. The Dolphins were in good shape to do it. They lost in the divisional round to the Raiders in '74. The Patriots lost to the Broncos in the divisional round in 2005 after they'd won 2 in a row. The Chiefs might just be able to pull it off, and that's what they're chasing. The opponent is nameless and faceless. They're chasing the kind of greatness that no one has touched. And another thing that came up last week, you know, we feel differently before something happens than we feel after it happens. If Mahomes would get to 3 in a row, something Brady had never done, would 4 with 3 in a row feel equivalent to 7? We won't know that until it happens, if it happens, but that's what they're chasing. So Ravens, Bengals, Bills, doesn't matter. What matters to them is trying to get to the top of the mountain for the third straight time.
It's interesting. Mike Florio is with us here on GCR. Mike, there's a lot of folks in Baltimore that think that John Harbaugh deserves more criticism for the Ravens' playoff failures. I think it's a very complex conversation because, he didn't have Lamar Jackson for 2 of those years, and I don't think it's as simplistic as just saying they've only won a couple of playoff games since they won the Super Bowl in 2012, but that is a fact. They've only won 3 playoff games in that time period. A lot of people wanted to believe that, this is, there's got to be pressure. He's got to be on the hot seat. That's not how Steve Bisciotti operates. He believes he has a very functional organization and things are run well, and they're going to take their chance every year. So I'll ask it twofold. Do you think there's any reason to think that there's almost an Andy Reid hey, success is good, but we're trying to win championships? And do you think there should be for John Harbaugh at this point in Baltimore?
Well, look at what the Ravens have had to deal with since winning the Super Bowl. In hindsight, they were lucky to thread the needle that year, get past the Patriots, get the Super Bowl win. They've dealt with the back end of the Patriots dynasty and the front end of the Chiefs dynasty, along with everyone else in the AFC, like the Bills, like the Steelers, who haven't won a playoff game since 2016, the Bengals, who are one of the rare teams that can actually beat the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, got that one Super Bowl appearance. But it's been Patriots, and then right where the Patriots left off, it's been the Chiefs. So the Ravens are just one of those teams that's been caught up in the wash of a couple of great all-time franchises, and it makes it harder to get things done. So, it's easy to get frustrated when your team is in the mix every year but isn't finishing the job. Talk to fans of some of the teams that are never in the mix, and they'll take what the Ravens have been doing any day of the week.
I tend to agree with you. I really do, and I just knowing how Steve Bisciotti operates, I just don't think that he's the type that's going to, all of a sudden go crazy if they lose in the playoffs again. But I also get it. It feels like you have this opportunity. You have a generational talented quarterback. You have a well-oiled machine. I certainly understand the argument that do you run the risk at some point of your window closing without you having gotten one?
Well, that's a great point. But the other side of it, too, is for all these owners and coaches and GMs who say their goal is to win the Super Bowl every single year, if that's your measure of success or failure, you're failing all the time. The Patriots failed 2/3 of the time during their 20-year run of greatness. And it's about being relevant. It's about being in the conversation. It's about having maximum local interest and selling jerseys and being in prime time. And that's the risk. If you throw overboard a guy that keeps you relevant every year, you may end up being irrelevant, and you're a lot less profitable when you're a lot less relevant.
I know that probably if we tune in on Thursday night that there'll be a lot of focus on these being the top horses and almost being like a 2-horse race because that's who played in the AFC Championship game a year ago. But, Mike, to you, besides these two teams, who's the biggest threat to get out of the AFC?
Oh, well, the Bengals, because they've proven that they can do it.
Yeah.
They beat the Chiefs once in the AFC Championship, and they had them on the ropes a second time. If Joe Burrow can stay healthy, and if they can get this Jamar Chase thing figured out, which who the hell knows with the Bengals, they can be right there. So there's a certain, it's like the little brother and the big brother playing ping pong. The little brother has a lead, and then the little brother gets nervous, and the big brother comes back. The Bengals are the one team that doesn't get nervous in that setting. Burrow relishes that. All those other teams in the AFC, when it's time to face Mahomes, there's only 2 guys that have beaten Patrick Mahomes in the postseason, Tom Brady twice and Joe Burrow once.
It's really remarkable to think about that, isn't it? That's really kind of an incredible statistic.
His worst-case scenario, 6 years as a starter, his worst-case scenario is losing in overtime of the AFC Championship.
Right. That's the worst result he's ever had. The worst. God, man. This guy. Hate this guy. Jesus. Hate this guy. Get out of our face, man. You're right, though. I completely understand it. Mike, who's the team? I've given this to everybody that I've had on going into the season. Who's the team that we're talking too much about that doesn't deserve the hype going into the season? Who's the team that deserves a little bit more interest and hype going into the season?
It's easy to say like the 49ers and the Eagles, although the Eagles are interesting for very different reasons. Do they listen to their coach? What caused them to implode last year, how much of last year will resonate into this year. You've already got guys complaining about going to Brazil, which would suggest they're not listening to Nick Sirianni and whatever he's trying to tell them about this business trip. So Eagles and 49ers, I think I watch them and see whether or not there's going to be slippage by both teams. And then as it relates to a team that we're not talking enough about, and the Buccaneers, I'm sure, love this because they use it as motivation, but they got to the final 8 last year, and they bungled the clock management at the end of the game against the Lions and would have had a chance to score and get a 2-point conversion and force overtime. They're better than they get credit for, and they had a bunch of free agents, and they managed to keep them all. And they love the fact that people are sleeping on them, and they probably prefer that I not point that out because they want to be the team that nobody's thinking about.
I will absolutely acknowledge that I'm on that because I think a lot of us just believe the Falcons, like they have a quarterback, they're now the team to beat, right? Like that's the end of it. But you're right.
Yeah, a quarterback who's done nothing in the postseason.
That's also true.
Right?
You're not wrong.
You're not quarterback who's done nothing.
You're not wrong. But he's done lots of things in the regular season. He's done
right.
lots of things in the regular season over the years.
And they drafted his replacement the year they signed him. I mean, that whole thing is just so weird.
I agree with that. That part we agree with. I have not escaped how weird that is. Still, I feel like they had enough talent there that all they needed is competent. Like it felt like that's all you were looking for from Falcons was competency at the quarterback position, and they would be competitive because of it. My God, they won 7 games without having competency at the quarterback position. So it just felt like it was such a low bar for what we were looking for from Atlanta this season.
They got a lot of great weapons. They need somebody to get the ball to those weapons, and we'll see if Kirk Cousins can do it. They get the Steelers right out of the gates, and I'm sure Falcons to send the Steelers to 0-1.
I promise this will be it. Are you surprised by how committed the Steelers have been to Russell Wilson when I just don't in Baltimore, legitimately, Mike, we're all like, please stay committed to Russell Wilson. Please don't figure out if Justin Fields might have some upside that could be dangerous and become a franchise quarterback there.
I think they're confident that they can turn the clock back to Russell Wilson's formula in Seattle with a really good defense, a good enough running game. He doesn't have to go out and win the games by himself. I think he got it in his head when he was in Seattle, when he saw the emergence of guys like Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. If I'm the centerpiece of an offense, I can be even better. He found out the hard way in Denver that's not true. If he goes back to being what he was in Seattle as a complementary piece who makes a big throw in a big spot and understands that all that matters is the final score, not your stats, then I think he could be pretty good. And the way the Steelers' schedule lines up, they play 3 AFC West teams in the first 6 weeks. He knows those teams well, particularly the Broncos in week 2. And then they've got 3 primetime games in 4 weeks going into their bye. They can make the decision after 8 games. If they're 3-5 or worse, they can go with Fields. But I think this is the smart move because I think Wilson can get back to what he was in Seattle because the formula is right for him in Pittsburgh.
At Pro Football Talk, of course, is where you find him. Son of Mine is available today. We've linked it up on our Twitter account at Glenn Clark Radio. Mike, what else can we plug for you, my friend?
No, that's it. I mean, we'll be on Peacock and NBC on Thursday night. We'll be on Peacock Friday night for the pregame of Packers-Eagles. PFT Live every weekday, 7 to 9 Eastern on Peacock and Sirius XM 85. And off we go.
Mike, always appreciate you, man. Congratulations on the book. Can't wait to read it. Thank you for taking the time for us as always, man.
Thanks, Glenn. See you, buddy.
Mike Florio with us here on GCR. Appreciate him. I can't talk myself into the Steelers being relevant with Russell Wilson. Is there? By the way, power rankings. First power rankings of the season. You wanna go? You wanna guess? I got them coming today. Oh, they're not up yet. What's going on? Now I got to make sure I actually sent the email last night.
Okay.
I was very much under the weather last evening. It was
Chiefs are 1?
No. The Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah.
Yes, of course the Kansas City Chiefs are number 1.
All right. Number 2?
Number 2?
49ers.
2 for 2.
All right.
2 for Tuesday over there. Look at you.
Number
now
3.
It gets interesting. Now it gets interesting.
Let's go with the... trying to think here. Because I don't know how bullish you are on the Ravens, you know? Let's go with it's got to be an AFC team. Let's go Bengals.
No.
Ravens.
Correct.
Okay.
Number 3 is the Baltimore Ravens. I do have the Bengals in my top 5. They are number 5. They are number 5 on the list.
That's because number 4
is
the Lions.
Correct. Absolutely right. I did after I did it. I was like, am I taking the cheap way out, taking the 4 teams that were in the championship games last year as my top 4 team? And I'm like, what reason is there to expect? Not that they can't take a step back, but what reason is it to expect these teams to take a step back?
Right.
Difference, absolutely. I'm not saying they're going to be the 4 teams that are going to be playing in the championship games this year because the likelihood of that is very slim. But to go into the season and say, do I think the Lions are worse? Like, no, I love them adding Kevin Zeitler. They already had a really good offensive line. Like, it was already really good. And they had Kevin Zeitler. I think a lot of us are intrigued by Jamison Williams' development and what more that could be. No, I don't think the Lions take a step backwards. That doesn't mean that there isn't a team that's ready to vault ahead of them. That part, I think, is the more compelling. I don't know. The Packers, where are they on my? They're 10th on my list. And the Packers, to me, are the team that's loaded with good, but not necessarily great, right? Like, they have a lot of really good pieces, but what are their dominant game-changing pieces that the Packers have? If some of those players that we like take another step forward this season and turn into more like game changers, like Jordan Love is right on that cusp, right? He proved to be a quality quarterback. If this year he takes another step forward, my God, what the Packers might become. And then maybe they do jump ahead of the Lions because I don't think there's a next level for Jared Goff, right? Like, I think this is what you can get out of Jared Goff. But until then, I can't go into the season and just say the Packers would be ahead of the line. I can't fathom that.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like all the 4 of those teams were really good a year ago. It's hard to say outside of just natural
none of them
regression.
To the point that Florio just brought up. Like, if the Buccaneers had reached the championship game, I would have to say there was an amount of fluky to that, right? They weren't really that good. They just happened to win that playoff game. I understand his point that everyone overlooks the Buccaneers, and I'll tell you the Buccaneers are 22nd in my power because I feel like that was the ceiling for Baker Mayfield. Like, you saw the absolute best that Baker Mayfield could be. And I also just don't think that division is as much of a doormat as it was. And they won the division, so now they have to play a first-place schedule on top of it. I think that life gets a little bit more difficult for the Buccaneers, who, again, were a 9-win team a year ago. We're essentially a 500 team. And didn't, wildly improve. They're largely the same. I just think it's not quite as easy for them. And it's not like I'm in love with the Falcons either. I do have the Falcons. Oh, God. You know what? Maybe I'm closer to. Yeah, I had them higher than I thought I did. They're 12th. They're 12th, which now that I think about it might be a bit too high. But, I do really like, on top of the fact that they just needed, competent quarterback play. That's all they needed, competent. And I think they can get that from Kirk Cousins. Do I think there could potentially be a quarterback controversy at some point? It's actually ironic here. The print issue of Press Box is available for free right now at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. You can read it all, PressBoxOnline.com. Before this came out, we were asked to make some NFL futures bets. And one of the ones I had was related to the Falcons, and I don't remember exactly what the wording was, but... What?
I don't know where mine is.
I think it's over here. You had to clean things up because of the other show on Friday. That was the problem. So it's probably over here in the corner. Hang on. Where is sports betting? It's on page 25, Griffin. You knew that. Who are you kidding? You were on top of that. You study from cover to cover.
I do.
And you
obviously
you could do a book report more or less on. All right. So here we go. I had the Atlanta Falcons to miss the playoffs at plus 148 as a bet that I liked. I actually went on Twitter after this was available and said, I no longer like that bet. And the reason was because they made both of the moves that they made, not only trading for Matt Judon. Their defense to me still seemed really suspect at the point that I decided this. I was like, you know what? But it's not just the fact they went out and got Matt Judon, which I love. I really do. I love that move for them. But on top of that, just a couple of days later, they were the team that said, why are we not signing? Let's just go get Justin Simmons. They look like a far more complete roster than they look like in July when I was asked to do these futures bets. I have become more enamored with the Falcons because of that. And again, I would like if you would ignore that I ever said that, please. Can we strike it from the record? Can we burn this print issue? No, I don't want you to do that. I want you to go pick it up for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms. I'm a bit more enamored with the Falcons than I was at that point. At that point, I probably would have had them somewhere around 17th, 18th, but those two moves really fortified the totality of the roster, and I'm buying in. Now, we do have to acknowledge that, like, we've given a pass to why Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson haven't been rock stars the way that we thought they were going to be rock stars. Remember, our expectations for Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts weren't impactful players. Our expectations were freak of nature. Utter and complete superstar game changers. And Kyle Pitts, in moments, has shown us why we thought that. And we all know the athleticism is as freakish as it gets. But we have just assumed that the reason why is the fault of anyone but those guys. For Kyle Pitts, it's the fault of the quarterbacks that have been throwing the ball to him. For Bijan Robinson, it's the fault of the offensive scheme, the play calling. Why have they not just fully committed to getting the ball in Bijan Robinson's hands at all times? We have to learn if that's definitively true still. This year will go a long way to teaching us that. It's totally possible we get to the end of the year and we say, maybe it wasn't the quarterback. Maybe Kyle Pitts is just good. Good. Not game-changing. He's just a good player. He is Evan Ingram. Would you like having an Evan Ingram? Evan Ingram's a good player. You're happy to have him. But maybe he's not Tony Gonzalez. Maybe he's not that echelon of tight end.
He's not a fourth overall.
Yeah,
pick.
maybe that, in hindsight, maybe it wasn't just about the quarterback play. I don't know. I am more bullish than I was about the Falcons. I have changed my mind about that particular topic.
Still anti-bullish on the Raiders?
The Raiders are a disaster.
Maybe.
I mean, how are they?
Yeah.
You know what's funny, though? I tell you one thing that I absolutely forgot about last year. As I was doing my work for Power Rankings, I completely forgot that somehow the Colts won 9 games last year. Yeah, you did too.
I mean,
you did too.
Because they were like going to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
until
everybody forgot that like
the
Colts were a real threat
they could have won the
last
division.
year. They could have. They didn't. They could have. Now, we're not going to overvalue. We're not going to pretend like Gardner Minshew drove that. Like, we're not going to pretend like he was some sort of superstar quarterback and he did miracle work or anything along those lines. But definitely was at least slightly better than I give him credit for. Still, he's good enough to not be good enough. So I probably have them too low. I'm just so down on a team that doesn't actually address quarterback, that doesn't actually swing for, like, the upside of Gardner Minshew is if everything goes right, you can be what the Colts were a year ago. That's hell to me. It's absolute purgatory for you to go into a season and say the upside of what we're capable of is that maybe we could be a 500 team. I'd rather not play the season than go into a season thinking that was the best case scenario. So yeah, I've got the Raiders like 31st in power rankings, and that's probably unfair because Gardner Minshew is more competent than I give him credit for.
But the point being is
the point is not having a quarterback or someone that might be your quarterback is hell in the NFL. That purgatory is worse than hell because when you're in hell, you can go get your quarterback in the draft the next year, right? If you're that bad, you can just go back and get your quarterback. If they somehow go 8-9, 9-8, they might convince themselves that they got to run it back the next year. And they're not going to draft in a position where they're confident the quarterback they would select is better than what they have. I'm so down on the Raiders' way of thinking, I can't see straight. And there are other teams that fall into this in a lesser way, Like, the Vikings obviously tried to go get their quarterback. They don't have one. Is there some world where Sam Darnold could be more competent than we expect, and Aaron Jones has a monster season, and he does have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison to throw the ball to, and all of a sudden you look up and you're like, oh, how did they win 8 games? You know, like, maybe, but they at least tried. They went out and tried to get their quarterback. They knew they had a problem. The Saints are one of these teams that just keeps convincing themselves we don't need a quarterback. Dude, it's this simple in the NFL. You have the guy or you don't. No one is winning with stopgap quarterbacks. It is not an option. So the Saints, to me, are a purgatorial team. They're a great defense. They're wasting a brilliant defense to not have a quarterback. Or to have one, again, whose upside is a little bit higher than Gardner Minshew's. What's Derek Carr's upside? You're a 11-win team that can't win in the playoffs. Like, the best case scenario. I get it, but
I mean, if we're going back to whatever his 2014 Derek Carr, was that his one good year?
Monster year, his monster season. It was after that. It wasn't 2014.
No, it was 2016.
Yeah, something like that.
Was he a rookie in 2014?
Yeah, that sounds right. The point being, like, maybe it's 10-7, and like winning a wild card game. That's the highest upside that you could have.
And it's because
with Derek
Kamara,
Carr.
you know.
Yeah, and because that defense is great. But that's the upside. That's the best case scenario that you could have that play out for. Power rankings up at Glenn Clark will be up.
Spencer Rattler might be demanding his way in. So who knows?
You know what? That to me, I would, if I were in New Orleans, without a doubt, I would rather have Spencer Rattler as my quarterback. I would rather find out if maybe there is a quarterback than continue to work with a guy that, like, I know isn't good enough. Power rankings will be up today at PressBoxOnline.com, I promise. When we come back in, we'll go over picks for the week. 7 college games. Let's see who maybe who's got off to a good start to the season and who maybe should already be thinking about what sardines are going to taste like. We'll do that next. Glenn Clark Radio.
Want to improve your golf game or learn to play for the first time? The Baltimore Golf Academy has fun, instructional programs for the beginner golfer to everyday players. The Baltimore Golf Academy can take your game to the next level. Enroll today at baltimore-golfacademy.com.
Frederick Keys baseball is back. With 30 more home games beginning on July 2nd, the Keys are excited to welcome you back to Nimeo Field at Harry Grove Stadium. We want to see you there. Countless promotions will be on display every game, with it ranging from Tap House Tuesdays to Firework Fridays and everything in between. For more information or to buy tickets, call 301-815-9939 or visit frederickkeys.com today.
We've all experienced it before, the fantasy football draft from hell. Your buddy says you can do it at his house, but he never asks his wife. She's screaming at him the whole time and forces you guys to sit outside in the unforgiving heat. Then everyone brings the exact same store-bought 7-layer dip, and somehow you accidentally draft someone named LeVar Jackson because your brain can't function in these circumstances. Don't cop out and just move your draft online this year. Let Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel handle everything for you. Book your draft party, complete with your choice of all-you-can-eat entrees, drinks, and custom draft kits for the whole league, plus a custom trophy for your champion and a $75 gift card for the commish. Visit PressBoxOnline.com/social. That's PressBoxOnline.com/social, and never have a fantasy draft from hell again.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
Hagerstown, Maryland, a snapshot of American history that dates back centuries. Today, the roots of the city expand with another historical moment, the grand opening of Meredith Park, Hagerstown's new event stadium and home to the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Experience the energy, culture, and adventure. Plan your getaway today at America's newest and most innovative ballpark. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland. Visit Hagerstown.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Escape to Ocean City, Maryland, and discover a place that just feels lighter, where every day feels like Saturday and French fries are a food group, where flip-flops are always in fashion and seafood is always in season, where the boardwalk is bustling and the beach is right outside your door, where you can rise with the tide and feel like a kid again. Ocean City, Maryland, somewhere to smile about. Book your trip at OCOcean.com.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
All right, back in here on GCR. Yeah, you know, it's a great point. I haven't asked anybody if the power of Taylor Swift will be enough to carry the Chiefs yet through another season. Did you see the story that, like, Patrick Mahomes, like, yeah, she's out there drawing up plays. Like, what are we doing? Like, why are we trying to force things?
I did not see that. Is she? She's drawing up plays now?
Yeah, who cares? Who cares?
I mean, that sounds interesting.
Who cares? Proctor also want to know if you even knew the reference on playoffs.
Yeah, that was the he was the Colts coach, right?
He was the Colts coach. Any chance you know his name?
I should.
His son was relevant this weekend from a local perspective.
Uh-oh.
His son was.
Why can't I remember his name?
Why
I
can't
should
you
know his
remember
name.
Why can't
I
you
should
remember
know his name. Coach.
His son is involved with one of the games that we're about to go over in picks.
And it's local. So
son,
that means
son.
I don't know.
His son is the head coach at UConn.
And I know that.
His son.
He could probably be doing a better job at head coaching then.
Jim Mora Jr.
Oh, so that means that was Coach Mora.
Jim Mora Sr. Of course. Playoffs?
Yeah.
We're talking about playoffs?
Of course know the reference, John.
You definitely.
Yeah. I just don't know, I just don't know.
You nailed like
What's
one.
the point of knowing? I know the face, I know the I know the words.
1/8 of that you had.
Yeah, no, like 2/3. I don't know. I just didn't know his name.
All right, let's get into. By the way,
it was a long time ago.
With yesterday being the holiday, Stan, Ross, and Luke postponed. They are getting together today. Today, 3:30. They'll be getting together to talk about the Orioles going into Game 2 of the series against the White Sox. You can watch it live, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. If you miss it live, you can, of course, see it a little bit later on today, PressBoxOnline.com/video, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline. Speaking of picks, just 7 college games that we picked over the weekend. We begin in North Dakota State, Colorado. Go you Buffaloes. Go you, but they won. They won that game. They sure did. They won the football game. So they've got that going for them, which is nice. You know what they didn't do?
No.
They didn't cover. They didn't cover just a 10-point spread against an FCS team. That didn't happen. They won 31-26. And so because of that, a bunch of us, myself, Jeremy Kahn, John from Little Rock, Kyle Ottenheimer all got that point. We had the first lone wolf of the season.
Yes, well, unrelated. FCS opponent that did cover, Towson Tigers.
That's right. They were
they look like a Big 12 school for a minute.
Very competitive against Cincinnati. Couldn't hang on late. Cincinnati was able to hold them off, but they did look very competitive for a good bit. I watched some of that game on Saturday after I got back. I went to the Maryland game. Had a great time. I got a bit of a problem in my house now. because I don't know.
Is that what made you violently ill, you think?
No, not at all. I had a great time. I don't think so. I don't know what made me violent. It all happened Sunday night. Like, after I had such a great weekend. Went to the Maryland game with the family, had the fantasy draft, and all of a sudden Sunday night it was just like a 24-hour thing, man. Like, it was just sucked. At the game, we were talking about how after big wins, college football fans like to run on the field and rip down the goalposts. And my 9-year-old now has a new mortal enemy in his life. Them goalposts.
Ah.
He is after them. It's the Spice Adams thing. He's like, I swear to God, because they gave out schedule magnets on Saturday at the Maryland game. And he was like staring at the schedule.
It's like, who can we do this against?
He's like, they play Michigan State next week. I'm like, right, buddy. Michigan State's not really that good anymore. He's like, I want to come and I want to bring a machete. I was like, what?
Okay, that did escalate a little quick. That's his plan of ripping the goalposts?
I said, pal, we're not going to. They don't bring a machete to the game. That's not an option.
Of course.
That's all he's been talking to me about.
Of course, they don't play like Michigan
for
or
48
Ohio
hours.
State.
Every couple of minutes, he's like, are we going to the game on Saturday? I'm like, no, buddy, you have a soccer match. Like, we're not going to the game. Then he'll look at me and be like, what about the next game? What about Villanova? I'm like, buddy, I don't think Villanova is going to be a big enough game.
So wait, how did it come up that Villanova?
We were just talking about college football traditions. Like, he was very enamored. My 7-year-old was putting up with it. He really likes the Orioles. He's not. None of the other things really jump off the page. We're thinking about going to the Towson Morgan game this coming Saturday, and my 9-year-old have a great time. My 7-year-old will put up with it. Like, he'll just deal with it. But we're talking about college football traditions and how college football is different than the pros and those types of things, and that came up. Like, hey, in college football, after big wins, the fans, and then it's all he could think about. Like, it's just one-track mind now related to, I am getting them goalposts down. Like, he was staring at them. I swear to God, we left the game. By the way, I'm so sure that the new rules are going to change how long it takes to play college. That was a 4-hour game on Saturday.
Was it?
We didn't stay. Thankfully, it was a butt kicking. So we had, early in the fourth quarter, we said,
I tuned in for a couple minutes in the second half and realized, oh, okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. This is what was supposed to happen.
I guess we can cover that one next on picks. Is Billy Edwards did indeed get the nod, and they did try giving MJ Morris some time, but it looked a lot better when Billy Edwards was running the offense on Saturday. Maryland easily crushes UConn, covers the 20.5-point spread with no issue. A few folks were on UConn, and it was bad. Jeremy Kahn, for example, John in Little Rock.
Well, Jeremy Kahn can't go against Kahn, can he?
That's a great point. Ken Zales and Kyle Ottenheimer. For Jeremy and John, if they had just picked Maryland, they would have been 6-1 for the week in first place by themselves. But such is life. My son's all in. So
Billy Edwards was like a top 5 PFF grade as well.
It was great. Now they were playing UConn. Let's keep it in our pants, right?
Was Billy Edwards just that good?
They ran the ball damn well, and boy, that kid Nolan Ray, like, as good as Roman Hemby is, and Roman Hemby's really good. That kid Nolan Ray is fast as hell. So they got a hell of a duo in the backfield. Billy Edwards looked the part, looked capable of throwing the football, and They certainly, I would say it didn't look as fluky offensively. A couple of times it was fluky defensively. Like, they left some guys open downfield. They missed some tackles, some things they got away with against UConn that they ain't going to get away with against some of the teams that are coming up on their schedule. But I don't know that Michigan State's the team to take advantage of it either next week. I will say that my son has now coordinated. So the 2 games that are on the schedule later in the year at home that might be big games. Now the USC game, after what happened on Sunday night, I guess we could cover that next.
Just go completely out of...
Almost all of us were on LSU, except for Jeremy Kahn and John in Little Rock. So again, if those two had just taken Maryland, they would have been in great shape because they stole a point there with USC obviously not just covering, but winning outright against LSU. So all of a sudden that game... But the USC wants to play defense now?
I know. The over did not hit.
Sheesh.
0-0 after the first quarter. I was like, wow. So this is just going to be a football game, not a
So,
not a track meet.
Now that game looks like that could be a little bit more interesting, and who knows? Maybe that's going to be a
potential goalpost.
Potential goalpost game.
Could be in trouble.
And then our friend AJ Francis let us know that this year the Iowa game will be his annual canned food drive to benefit Sarah's house, and so. If in some bizarro world, Iowa is...
They're scoring touchdowns now on offense. So
against Western Illinois. And I did still see there was like a stretch of that game where... Was it Western Illinois or Illinois State? It was one of those teams.
I don't know, actually.
Somebody also posted there was like a stretch of like 10 consecutive drives between those two teams that ended in punts or turnovers on downs. So there was still a good amount of Iowa football being played. Even
it was the Redbirds, ISU.
Illinois
State.
Yep. All right, other games. Yes, Paul Valley was a lone wolf on Clemson. Did you see the graphic that Heather Dennett shared out? There are 4 programs in all of FBS football that didn't have a single incoming transfer on their roster going into the season.
Wow.
Do you know who they are?
Well, yes, Clemson.
Clemson's certainly one of them.
4 programs.
4 programs in all of FBS football. They didn't have one incoming transfer on their roster.
Jeez, that's I have no idea who could possibly not have a transfer.
If you thought about it, it makes all the sense in the world.
Alabama?
Nope.
Yeah,
nope.
That makes sense.
3 programs that are very similar.
All right, so because they have like a very old school head coach.
Not for that reason.
Okay. Florida State?
Nope. Although they're very bad.
Yeah. Just all because they're bad. Then Virginia Tech, because they look bad.
You're overthinking this.
I'm overthinking it. So did
3
they win?
Programs that are extraordinarily similar. Extraordinarily. I would say
Clemson?
the 3 most similar, not to Clemson.
Oh, not the same.
To
okay.
each other.
These are all similar. They're separate than Clemson.
3 that could not be the most similar programs in all of college football.
Okay, well, Ohio State had a transfer.
Oh, boy.
I mean, I don't know what 3 programs are.
3
are so
programs
similar.
that stand out, that are very separated from everyone else in college football.
Hawaii.
No, for obvious reasons.
Then it's because it's
oh boy.
It's because it's Washington. No. Washington State.
Nope.
Oregon State.
Nope. Navy, Army, and Air Force.
Okay.
Those are the only other programs in all of college football without a single incoming transfer on their roster.
Fair. Makes sense.
I think it's going to happen for Clemson, playing by different rules. Just don't think that's going to work as they get pounded by Georgia. Everybody gets that point except for Paul Valley. Penn State handles their business on the road at West Virginia. There was a long weather delay in there and all that hype for West Virginia. Pat McAfee going out there.
Well, if it hadn't been for the weather delay.
God bless. No. No. God bless you. A few folks, Andrew Steck, John Little Rock, Ken Zales, and Kyle Ottenheimer are on West Virginia. A few of us were on Florida. Womp, womp.
Chomp, chomp.
Jesus, they look terrible.
Or is Miami just that good?
Yeah, Miami looks obviously very good as well. It looks like right now the ACC should be fairly routine for them. Like, Clemson stinks. Florida State stinks.
I thought Virginia Tech was a little bit of an underdog.
Stinks.
Yeah, no.
Bad. That was pretty split, that pick. So James Revere, Jeremy, Joe Serpico, John Little Rock, and Ken Zales and Ryan Chell were all on Miami. Notre Dame handles business against Texas A&M, essentially clinching their spot in the college football playoff. Their schedule is so...
They have USC, right?
I guess they have that. I guess that game still matters. But even with one loss, I think they'd put them in. Like, the point of this existing is in part to get Notre Dame into the playoff every year. Like, that's part of the reason why they did this.
That's the reason.
It's not the reason.
You got at Purdue.
There's that. It's part of the reason why they did this is because they want to make sure that Notre Dame can get into the playoff.
At Georgia Tech, you never know now.
Maybe.
They're at Navy.
It's not at Navy.
Is it at Navy? Sorry.
They don't play at Navy. Unfortunately.
That's in East Rutherford.
Yeah, it's in New Jersey. But,
I guess that Florida State game looks pretty easy now.
It was not an aesthetically pleasing football game. It was kind of a dud for the first big Saturday night game of the year. Riley Leonard was not overwhelming in any way, but...
So they never play at Navy? Is that the thing?
No, they don't play at Navy. Okay. Imagine, Navy's only like 30-some thousand people in the stadium. Like
30 is pretty good.
They can't play. it wouldn't work.
They should.
Notre Dame. Notre Dame travels too many people. It's just not an option. Although I guess they probably played at Wake Forest when they did that arrangement with the ACC. I don't know how big Wake Forest Stadium is probably bigger than. It's definitely bigger than Navy's. I don't know how big it is, but it's bigger than Navy's. And I would assume that's the smallest stadium in the ACC.
Wake Forest?
Yeah.
Why?
Because whose would be smaller? That's the smallest.
Florida State looked pretty empty last night.
It's not about whether or not it's empty. It's about how big it is. How many people could go to the game is the question. I would assume. I don't think there's a smallest stadiums in the ACC. It is, Wake Forest, as I said. Thank you.
All right, well, good job.
Thank you.
Guess you got it. Yeah, 31,000.
Yeah, so that would be the one argument to, they can't play at Navy is that if they played at Wake Forest as part of their arrangement with the ACC. And now that SMU's, although they still do the arrangement with the ACC, do they still play the 4 ACC games every year?
They play, darn it, I just had their schedule up. Notre Dame plays actually Stanford is an ACC school,
yes.
so yeah, Stanford,
Louisville. You said Georgia Tech.
I said Georgia Tech, Virginia.
So they must still have the arrangement with the ACC to play. So maybe that would be the argument: is hey, if you're willing to play because SMU's now in the ACC and they have a small stadium too.
Even Marine Corps Stadium has 34,000.
Yeah, correct. It's bigger than Wake Forest.
Yeah.
So there would be your argument. There would be your argument for why they should do it.
Get it done.
It doesn't happen. All right. Anyway, those are all of our picks. We did that. So for the week. Bunch of us went 5-2. Myself, James Revere, Jeremy Kahn, Joe Serpico, John from Little Rock, Ryan Schell. Great week for all of us. 5-2, banner start to the season. Griffin, just a game back.
Hey, I'll take
which
that.
I would say for you is
I'm right there,
riding high. 4-3, over 500. Things are going well. John Proctor, 3-4, not terrible. Bottom of the table. 2-5 for the week. Ken Zales, Kyle Ottenheimer, Paul Valley, and Andrew Stecca. And maybe this is Andrew Stecca trying to figure out his way out of the league. Again,
he knows what he's doing.
Stockpile some losses so that I can spectacularly avoid losing at the end of the season. That might be the game plan. Again, if you're playing along at home, the prize is some cash. Although we got to work on that. We got to get everybody to pay up.
I have.
Oh, I don't know.
Like
I might not
thrice.
have paid you.
Yeah.
I might still
paid.
owe you money. I'll work on that this week. And then the loser, of course, is the big issue because the loser of the league,
big issue.
They're gonna have to come in here, perform a couple of lovely songs. Rio by Duran Duran, Copacabana by Barry Manilow.
That's all right.
Yeah, that part of it not so bad. Other parts, not as great. 4 strikes.
Oh my gosh.
Of choosing of John Rollo, BJJ specialist. I don't know what BGG
BGD,
is.
yeah.
BGD, BJJ specialist. Also, get waxed. Get a Brazilian. Right here in studio.
Oh man.
Yeah, the whole thing. Everything just hanging out, man. Gonna have to do it.
What if we just say, yeah, okay.
We'll figure it
Wax
out.
their eyebrows.
Although the way that we figured out other punishments, I don't know if we'll figure it out. Griffin's got a lot of work to do in that department. And the what is this thing called? The couscous or
couscous
It's not couscous. It's not couscous because that's a different thing altogether. This is cornmeal and sardines.
But that's
and
why. But it's called couscous or something.
It's something close to that. They're gonna have to consume an entire. It looks like a fruit cake, but it ain't a fruit cake. You wish it was a fruit cake. It ain't.
It's random cake.
Yeah, I don't think we want to call it cake. It's something. So that's what's at stake for the loser. Is Joe? He's coming in tomorrow.
Yeah, Joe's coming in tomorrow.
Is he doing his?
Yes. Yeah.
You sure?
His spaghetti ranch.
You finally?
Yeah.
This was 8 months ago that we did this.
I mean.
And then what's the latest with Jeremy?
Hoping soon.
That's so nothing is what you're saying.
I mean, yeah, I've sent out some dates and we're going to figure it out.
Nothing is what you're saying. There is no latest.
There's nothing.
There's no latest is what you're saying.
I've talked to Jeremy.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I could send him a carrier pigeon too. There's no reason to believe that it's happening. And he owes us another one on top of that.
What's
the Mayo Dogs.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You gotta take more control of it.
Okay. I mean,
I know I'm asking for a lot. I know I'm asking for a lot because right now it's been difficult enough just getting you to prepare the show. I understand that. We gotta lock these things up. Come back in. Our friend Mary Drexler is with us, and it's a reminder that we have fun with odds and things like that. There can be some real dangers, and she's going to tell us more about that as we get into the swing of football season. That's next. This is Glenn Clark Radio.
Experience the thrill of the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, coming October 17th to the 20th. See the world's best equestrians compete in the sport of eventing, the ultimate test of horse and rider. Enjoy a weekend festival featuring locally sourced food at the Fresh Food Fest, a beer, wine, and spirits showcase, shopping, and fun for all ages. Check out the Maryland Corgi Cup, interactive kids corner, and more. It's the place to be in October. Visit maryland5star.us for tickets.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Baltimore's Classic 5 golf courses make golf fun and affordable. All 5 local courses, Pine Ridge, Mount Pleasant, Forest Park, Carroll Park, and Clifton Park, are challenging and fun for players of all skill levels. Book your tee time today at classic5golf.com.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Pressbox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka profiles Ravens star safety Kyle Hamilton, detailing his path from growing up the son of a basketball player to choosing football, being overlooked in the draft, and turning into a defensive unicorn as a playmaking Swiss Army knife in the NFL. Also inside, meet college football players from all of the area's D1 programs and some of the area's college soccer standouts as well. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores. Or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can also find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCRs, continue along on a Tuesday edition of the program. And, of course, it is football season officially upon us. College football got into full swing this past weekend. NFL season kicks off Thursday night with Ravens-Chiefs in Kansas City. And for a lot of us, that means there might be some fun to be had in terms of betting on football. But for some people, that fun can go south in a hurry. And we welcome back to the studio this morning a friend of ours. She's the program director for the Maryland Center of Excellence on Problem Gambling. She is Mary Drexler, and she is in studio with us here on GCR. Mary, good morning. It's good to see you again.
Good morning. Thanks for having me again.
One of the things that I appreciate whenever we have you in studio is that you are not here to preach. You are not here to say, how dare you bet on sports. You can't do that. It's that we have to talk about this. We have to be aware that there are real-life consequences from much in the same way that some people can go have a beer and not have a problem whatsoever. A lot of people can't do that, and it turns into a problem. And the same thing can be quite real when it comes to sports betting.
Yeah, I agree. 90% of our population can do it recreationally. But, you have the 2 to 5% who could develop a problem or even, be diagnosed with pathological or what they're now calling disordered gambling. And then there's a 5% that's at risk. And what you need to know is, are you at risk? If you're going to choose to bet, the Center of Excellence is not for or against legalized gambling. We want people to keep it safe. We want people to keep it fun so they don't find themselves needing help, but help is there, and we want to make sure they know that.
So let's just say you're someone who is very specifically a football season bettor, and maybe the first couple of years that we've had legal sports betting in Maryland, you haven't really done anything crazy. What should you be watching out for as you dive back into betting this season? What should be the things that you should be on your radar? Hey, if I'm doing this, maybe I need to stop for a second.
Yeah, well, if you find yourself, with any type of gambling, chasing those losses, betting outside your means, you can get very caught up, especially now with mobile apps for gambling that you can bet on every single play, and you kind of lose track of the amount of dollars you're spending. Your bank account's online, this app is online. You start isolating yourself and kind of betting on your phone somewhere else. You're lying about how much you're betting. It's interfering with your relationships. These are kind of like signs that you may need to take a step back. You may need to reach out to get some support. Sometimes it's very difficult to stop or cut down on your own, especially if you get involved in the cycle of the betting.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, it's this belief that, the first thing you ever say, I don't have a problem. I could, I could stop whenever I want to. Well, if you're saying that out loud, then you might need to consider whether or not maybe you do have a problem, right? If you have to justify your own actions, then maybe reconsider that sentence.
Yeah, you're obviously thinking about it. It's obviously weighing on you. I know a lot of people don't like to make the phone call to 1-800-GAMBLER, but we have a website, helpmygamblingproblem.org, where you can actually take your own self-assessment just to see if you have some of those signs that may be leading you to developing a gambling problem. So I recommend people do that because the younger adult population doesn't necessarily want to make a phone call.
Yeah,
They're going to be much more apt to do something on the internet or look something up. So we encourage people to do that, kind of see where they stand on their own. And the other big thing we have is we have peer recovery support specialists, 5 of them at our center right now. We're hiring 2 more. And these are individuals who had a gambling problem due to sports betting. So they have lived experience. It's not even like talking to me. It's somebody who's been there, done that, and is on their road to recovery.
So the always difficult part about this conversation is if it's not me, if it's somebody else that's in my life, if I look over and say, and I don't know, man, how do you go about that conversation? How do you say, dude, I'm maybe a little bit worried, what? How do
you express that? Well, first of all, if it's a family member or a good friend, that individual needs to know there's help for them to help them get through this. In Maryland, especially, we have no-cost treatment, not just for the gambler, but for the family member. So they can talk to someone. There is a family member peer support specialist through the Maryland Coalition of Families who can help that family member navigate what's going on. Because a lot of things may be happening. Finances may become an issue. That's why they're concerned. Job may be in jeopardy because all they do is think about gambling. So there are many things to do, and it's just you shouldn't ignore it. You should broach it. I'm concerned about you. I'm worried about you. I'm noticing you can't stay away from placing bets or making bets. They may not be ready, but you certainly can get support while you're trying to figure out how to help them. And I encourage that family members reach out, even if the gambler is not ready.
She is Mary Drexler. She is the program director for the Maryland Center of Excellence on Problem Gambling, and she's in studio with us. Again, the phone number is 1-800-GAMBLER. And you also can go to helpmygamblingproblem.org at all times as you try to figure out, like, just I guess I should go back the other way. Not everyone is going to have a problem.
Yeah.
Are there guardrails that you can put in place before? Like, as you start back into, are there guardrails that you can put into place? Like, hey, don't, like, I know we always talk about chasing and what a problem is, but are there certain guardrails that you can put into place immediately in order to be able to more safely get involved in sports betting?
Well, number one, you should be setting aside dollars you can afford to lose and not know what your basic needs are and making sure that money isn't being taken in order to place bets. Beware, especially with mobile or online gambling, the speed of it, the availability of it. Isolating from people can create even more problems because you're trying to lie about your gambling. Those are just some of the things that you could look at in dealing with it.
Let me follow up. Is it good to talk to say, hey man, I'm getting involved at the sports betting. Here's what I've like. Is it a good idea to talk to somebody, to have like someone know so they can hear, like, when those numbers start kind of getting a little crazy, like, dude, what are you doing over there?
And a lot of individuals who may be gambling more than they should be gambling are talking to their friends. But friends aren't aware that there is help out there and how they might be able to help them get to the help that they need. Because you don't often, a lot of people do it, group parties, especially around football games. If you're seeing somebody where you think it's getting out of control, you can talk to them. You're their friend. But you should also know about the resources available because sometimes they're not quite ready. Sending someone to, like, helpmygamblingproblem.org to take their own assessment isn't over pushing it, allowing the person to kind of see for themselves if they're heading in the wrong direction.
I feel like this is one that you and I have not talked about enough over the years. If you're predisposed, if you're someone who has dealt with other addictions, if you're someone who comes from a family of addiction, does that perhaps make you more likely to deal with betting and gambling addiction?
It sure does. If you grew up in a family environment, in some cultures, gambling is very prominent. If you grew up in that environment, you're probably going to be more prone to want to take part in that activity. That's known. Gambling, just like drugs, alcohol, the same thing happens to your brain. You get that high, your levels of serotonin go flying, your brain lights up, and there's been studies on brain activity that show it does the same thing as if I was shooting up heroin. So you really need to be aware that it can become an addiction, but that you can get help for that addiction. But yeah, if you're around family, gambling has been a full part of your life. Yes,
But even, like, let's just say you come from a family that's dealt with drinking addiction, things like that. Like, is that something that should be a little bit more on your radar? Like,
yeah, addictions are interchangeable.
Yeah.
Some people who have had an alcohol addiction but now are in recovery from that go to gambling. If there are mental health issues that are involved, that could predispose you. The anxiety, the depression could lead you into the gambling activity. So there's lots of other things, but they are interchangeable, and they often don't occur in a vacuum. So people who have a problem with gambling may also have a problem with alcohol, may also have mental health issues.
It's just the reality. I mean, that's the reality of what you're dealing with. And again, it doesn't mean that you're not capable of, like, I think a lot, and you and I I've talked openly about this before. Like, there have been moments as I've gotten involved in sports betting where I've had to say, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take a pause. I'm going to go ahead and just, like, I don't think it's addiction. I don't think it's, I think that maybe it's taken up a little bit too much of my life, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn everything off and not be involved with that so that it doesn't go any further than that. So.
Yeah, and we want to meet people where they're at. Somebody may not be ready to totally quit gambling, but there is harm reduction. What can we do to limit what's happening right now? Meeting someone where they're at, allowing them to be part of that process is going to help them, and eventually they may want to totally stop. but we're not going to force anybody to totally stop. We want to meet people where they're at and what kind of support do they need right now.
It is, like, again, it's typically, me naturally, Mary, I'm the type that likes to make jokes. Like, I want to,
Yes.
this is a very difficult, like, subject to be joking about. Because, like, you want to, but it is so important. It's so imperative that you're aware of the actual risks. And again, it's not saying don't ever, how dare you, put a parlay together. That's not what anybody is saying. It's totally fine that you can go out and have fun if that's what you're doing.
Yeah, keeping it as recreational and not getting so lost in what you're doing is obviously going to be helpful to anyone. And again, we're not saying people can't engage in legalized gambling activity, but you have to be able to know what your limits are when you choose to do that.
And it's important to say that, like, if you do reach out to 1-800-GAMBLER or go to, this is not, it's no cost treatment. It is just make the call. You don't have to have your insurance information out. You don't have to have your credit card out. Like, it's
free.
Yep. This is a resource. This is something that you should be able to use no problem, like, at any moment that it strikes you, whether you're convinced you don't have it. If you are convinced that you do have a problem, please, immediately. But even if you're not convinced that you have a problem and you're just, I don't know, you're interested, you're worrying a little bit, you're wondering, it's worth making the call and talking to some folks. And as you pointed out, folks that have really been through this.
Yeah, our peers, oftentimes people aren't ready to jump into seeing a counselor.
Yep.
But they do want the support of someone who's been there, and that's why the peers are there.
You gave me some staggering statistics, and I just want you, if you could, Mary, before we wrap up, to share these numbers, because I think it's going to give some perspective to some folks.
Yeah, and a recent American Gaming Association survey, study, whatever you want to call it, this is the 5th season since legalized sports betting has come about, and now there are 34 states with legalized sports betting. Many of those states have online mobile sports betting. But they're predicting that about $15.5 billion will be bet this season during football season. And they're saying what we've got is about 73.5 million adults will bet during football season. And that's 28% of our population here in the U.S. So that's 1 in 4 American adults. So somewhere in there may be a few people who find themselves not being able to control their gambling behavior. So, and this is about a 57% increase from 2022 that they're predicting in people who will take part in sports betting.
Those are some terrifying numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's staggering numbers, more the way to say. Again, because, like, a lot of that will be done by people who are doing it
the right way.
Exactly right. But, like, it's still, those are staggering
A lot
numbers.
of money and a lot of people.
All right. So, again, 1-800-GAMBLER, helpmygamblingproblem.org. It's for everyone. It's free. There's no reason, even if you're not, even if you're just getting into sports betting and you're a little bit nervous that you couldn't make the call and talk to somebody.
Just find out what's out there. Find out some information about problem gambling and what some of the risks are.
Mary Drexler, it is always good to see you. Thank you so much for coming back and hanging out in studio with us.
Thank you for having me on again.
Always appreciate your mission. That's Mary Drexler. She is the director for the Maryland Center of Excellence on Problem Gambling, and we appreciate her joining us in studio. Let's get a tidbit. Oh, yes, let's do that. Right now is when I was going to do that.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, what you got?
Let's start with, Ohtani. Already, he's on pace for his 50-50 season as it stands right now. He stands at 45 homers, 46 steals already. Once he hit 44 was already the highest total a player had reached in both home runs and stolen bases. So 50-50 watch. Very much alive and seems certainly attainable for Ohtani.
I think it's almost fait accompli.
It does. Here's one on Florida State. So Florida State, outright losses as a double-digit favorite this season twice. So two teams in the last 40 years. This comes from Evan Abrams. 2 teams in the last 40 years have opened the season as back-to-back back-to-back outright losses as a double-digit favorite. This is the 3rd time it's happened in the last 40 years. The other 2 times were the 2017 Baylor Bears, and then the 2015 Wyoming Cowboys.
I was wondering if there's ever been a team that on Labor Day already had 2 conference losses. Oof. I just can't fathom that's ever happened before.
Probably not.
And then particularly if there's ever been a team with two losses, neither one of which was in a road game. Like home and neutral.
Yeah.
2 losses.
If you were curious, 2015 Wyoming, they went 2-10 on the year, and then 2017 Baylor went 1-11.
Well, who are they favored against? Stephen F. Austin, maybe. I don't know. That's really wild.
And then finally, so this was I'm a little late on this one, but it is a good tidbit. Colton Cowser, once he hit his 20th home run against the Dodgers last week, he became the 9th Oriole rookie to have 20 doubles and 20 home runs in a season.
All right. Well, Gunnar Henderson.
Gunnar Henderson is, in fact, on this list. Did it last year.
How about 20 and 20? 20 and 20. Cal?
Cal, yes, is on this list.
Like, I just want to get... The problem is, so, like, I know who the Rookie of the Year winners were, but I just don't know that they were guys that... I'll say, okay, I'll just go through. Ron Hansen.
Ron Hansen is on the list.
I mean, only because he won Rookie of the Year. I wouldn't have known that he had both 20 home runs and 20 doubles. I'll keep going.
22 and 22.
Kurt Blefary was a Rookie of the Year winner.
Kurt Blefary was, in fact, a Rookie of the Year winner. I don't know if he won Rookie of the Year, but the year before, the Orioles also had a rookie go 2020.
The year before Kurt Blefary?
Yes, which was...
64? Mm-hmm. Ay. All right, I'm just going to keep going with Rookie of the Year winners. Eddie Murray?
Eddie Murray, yes.
And I feel like there was another one, wasn't there?
Another rookie?
Well, Greg Olson was Rookie of the Year, but he was a pitcher. Oh, Bumbry.
Bumbry is not on this list.
That's fine. He was Rookie of the Year, but I think. Double check that he was Rookie of the Year.
All right.
He might not have had home runs, though. Bumbry wasn't a big... That might be he just might not have had the home runs. 64 Oriole rookie.
Yeah. Good.
What?
I said, yeah, exactly. Good. Any idea? He was rookie. Bumbry was Rookie of the Year.
I thought he was rookie
in 1973.
64 Orioles. The problem is I don't know who was it. Boog? Was Boog a rookie?
Bumbry only had 7 home runs his rookie year. Not Boog.
Who would have been a rookie on the 64 Orioles? It's not Brooks, obviously. He was a rookie in 55. How about...
Didn't have a long career either.
Didn't have a long
played
career.
64. So he came up in 63, so he technically had 5 seasons total with the Orioles, and then his final 2 years were with the Washington Senators.
Man.
Yeah.
No, that's not ringing a bell at all. Not ringing a bell even a little bit.
Jeez, he was... Oh, okay, never mind. I read that wrong.
So it was some of that was on the World Series team.
Yes. It was part of the 1966
But it doesn't... Like,
Orioles.
I'm trying to look at the 66 Orioles. So
It
it's
did not appear in any of the World Series games.
It's not Paul Blair.
No.
It's not Davy Johnson.
Not Davy Johnson.
It's not Andy Etchebarren. Who the hell is it? All right, tell me.
It was Sam Bowens.
Man, I got
Could've
nothing.
been here.
I got nothing on Sam Bowens.
He hit
There is
25.
nothing. I got nothing in the Sam Bowens file.
25 doubles and 22 home runs.
Sheesh. Nothing. Complete.
The
blank
other
space.
2 did it have done it in the last 7 years.
The last 7 years. 2 other rookies in the last 7 years. Did Adley do it?
Adley did not do it.
Last 7 years. some bad baseball in the last 7 years.
They were, they were on 2 bad teams.
Great. Rookies. Santander.
Not Santander.
Trey Mancini.
Trey Mancini in 2017. I guess they weren't horrible in 2017. They weren't good.
They weren't good, right? But they weren't as bad as they got in the years that followed. Austin Hayes?
Not Austin Hayes. Not Austin Hayes.
I don't think it was Cedric Mullins.
It was not Cedric Mullins.
Yikes. 20 home runs and 20 doubles in the last 7 years.
He actually had over 30 home runs.
Had over 30 home runs as a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this?
On just a god-awful Oriole team.
On a god-awful Oriole team. That might be part of the problem is, like, over 30 home runs as a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
Is it somebody that I don't realize would have qualified as a rookie? Like, is it somebody
No, I
that
mean, we knew he was a rookie.
we knew he was a rookie?
Yeah. I guess because 2020 would have been, like, his rookie year, but they waived that. So
that didn't count for anybody. So we knew. So obviously that means it was a 2021 Oriole.
Mm-hmm.
2021 Oriole had 30 home runs. 30 home runs in 2021. And it wasn't Cedric Mullins.
No. Jeez, yeah, I guess I had 2 guys.
Oh, Mountcastle.
Yes.
Mountcastle.
Yes, Ryan Mountcastle. Cowser, Henderson, Mountcastle, Mancini, Cal.
I totally forgot about Mountcastle.
Eddie Murray, Kurt
Jesus.
Blefary,
All
Ron
right.
Hansen, and Sam Bowens. Big Sam Bowens.
Big Sam Bowens guy over here. Everybody knows that. All right, very good. Let's get tubular.
There is a place where tradition, family, and community gather, where the aspirations of talented young competitors takes root, and where the crossroads of history, culture, and renewal come together. This spring, experience America's newest and most innovative ballpark, Meritus Park in Hagerstown, Maryland, home of the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Plan your getaway today. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland.
All right, here's what's coming up totally tubular-wise. Orioles do indeed continue their series with the White Sox this evening. Cade Povich is on the mound, and that wouldn't usually inspire confidence, but he's facing the White Sox. So hopefully, I don't want to say anything because then I'm going to end up jinxing it. Nick Nastrini, whatever that is, goes for Chicago. 6:35 tonight on MASN 2. U.S. Open quarterfinals all day long on ESPN, and it includes, of course, the last one tonight is Francis Tiafoe and Grigor Dimitrov for a spot in the semifinals. MASN Nationals, Marlins, 6:40. TBS, Red Sox, Mets, 7:10. MLB Network, Dodgers, Angels at 9:38. ESPN Plus, Diamondbacks, Giants at 9:45. MLB TV, the free game is Mariners, Athletics at 9:40. USA Network for Paralympics coverage all day long. And NXT tonight at 8 o'clock. Non-sports?
Non-sports-wise, late nights are back. So Katie Ledecky will be on Fallon with Taraji P. Henson.
Maryland's own.
Yes. And then Edie Falco will be on Seth Meyers because apparently there's...
Is there a new season of The Sopranos coming out?
No. There's Nurse Jackie apparently is getting a revival.
Why not?
Yeah,
Why
so,
not?
So Edie Falco. The finale of Hard Knocks, Chicago Bears, and a new episode of Only Murders as well.
Isn't there something Sopranos adjacent that's happening?
Yes, it's coming out. I guess it's just like a documentary about it. I think it's on Friday.
Yeah, is it Friday? Okay.
Or Thursday? Hold on, what day? Oh, it's Saturday nights.
Oh.
Wise Guy David Chase and the Sopranos. It's
All
just
right.
a doc about the Sopranos.
All right.
So
Well,
should
I will
be
watch
interesting.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it's the Hope Solo Untold. Hope Solo versus U.S. Soccer.
I haven't watched the Connor Stallions one.
It was just a bunch of Michigan fans made it, I think.
This is Untold. It should be unmade. Probably is where we're gonna have to start going.
It's
with
just I don't know the point.
Not sure what.
It's not a documentary. It was just Connor Stallions just saying I was so cool and so great. You know, Michigan fans love me. That's
really what it was.
Yeah, it was obviously none of the Michigan staff's gonna comment on it, at least not yet.
Yeah,
so
it's way too soon.
Too soon. It was just him. The only opposing perspective they got was this guy who remained anonymous and was an Ohio State message boarder blogger. And he was. I mean, it was actually kind of comical. Like it looked like something they could have they could have made up. He went by Brohio.
Brohio.
And he was
Brohio.
And he was just like like wearing like all black and this like hat just so that no one could see his face.
This is something.
It was dumb. There was a lot of because Navy. They made a big deal about the Navy because his first game was when Navy played Notre Dame.
Okay.
Because he was a student at Navy, and so the first game that he was on the sidelines was when not Notre Dame. They were playing Ohio State at M&T Bank Stadium.
Okay.
So they were like we almost beat Ohio State and I was on the sidelines.
What?
Calling out plays.
No,
so
thank you.
No,
thank you.
Looked bad. I think that was it. Oh, so Joey Chestnut, Kobayashi had their hot dog.
They did yesterday. And Joey Chestnut ate 83 hot dogs.
In 10 minutes.
So I actually watched some of it, although as sick as I was feeling, it was actually really unpleasant watching it. Like it actually, this is the first, because I normally, there's nothing I love more in the world. Also, the broadcast, the
Netflix broadcast.
It was the campiest thing I've ever seen. I understand that we're talking about eating hot dogs, but like part of what we love about the Nathan's contest is how like make it look like it's a thing.
Yeah.
This was as campy gets. And Rob Riggle just like, hey! And then Nikki Bella like, hey! Like that's just a lot of, hey! This is It's the people that want you to think you're having a good time because they keep telling you what a good time you're having, which is a thing in broadcasting. Like you don't leave any room for someone to decide if they're having a good time. Just keep telling them what a good time they're having. This is incredible. This is amazing. This is unbelievable. Wow. To the point where none of it means anything, and you're like, I don't even know if I enjoyed this because they just kept bashing me over the head with how much fun I was supposed to be having. And I was like, it was something.
They didn't take into account that you weren't feeling well.
They didn't do that, but in general, it was just too much, man. Like, the most random group of people that they could throw at this thing, like Rob Riggle and Nikki Bella.
This sounds right up Rob Riggle's alley.
This is just, what is this? And again, I get it. Like, the idea of competitive eating is kind of campy to begin with. But the reason why we've liked it is because they've gone the anti-campy route. Like, they've made it so that we actually could believe it was an event. And they went the exact opposite. This was as campy gets. This was embarrassing from the broadcast perspective. But Joey Chestnut, it's Joey Chestnut. It's the greatest American that exists. 83 hot dogs. All right, thanks today to
Bachelorette Season 21 finale. I didn't make sure I don't forget that.
This one's important. You can't miss this. Hey, speaking of important, County Sports Zone is where you can find all of the scores all season long for every high school sporting event in the state of Maryland. Every sport, every team, every location throughout the state. They've got it. CountySports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Thanks today to Mike Florio and to Marc Ross. We'll get that up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Tomorrow
doing a fantasy draft.
All right, we're doing a fantasy draft during the show. Joe Serpico's coming in. He's going to pay off his punishment, you say?
Yes, yeah.
Somebody joining us.
Devin McCourty will join
Devin McCourty is joining us as he is part, of course, NBC's coverage for Ravens Chiefs on Thursday night and Stuff and Things. Thanks to everybody at Pressbox. My binder's not here either. Where did my binder go? That I don't know. Oh, it's right there. It is right there. Look at that. Hello, binder. It's like a blanket that's comfortable. Everybody in the Maryland 5-Star, Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Visit Hagerstown in Washington County, Baltimore's Classic 5 golf courses. Cruise Maryland, Ocean City, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, the Block Courage Awards, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costa Sin, MSAA, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin, at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, at Glenn Clark Radio. I will see you over on 105.7 The Fan tonight, 6:30 to 9 o'clock with Rita. Have a great Tuesday night. Go Birds. Duke sucks.